I'm going to talk about the context of this discussion about political donations, talking broadly about money and politics. I start off with the fact that now, unlike when I joined the Oxford Fabian Society in 1980, that now in a majority of nation states, the majority of citizens value both democracy and the market. And there's a popular commitment to the belief that politics should be dominated by democratic principles and the economy should be dominated by market principles. Whilst both democracy and the market are built on the principles of individual choice, they involve two fundamentally different counting principles for evaluating choices. The counting principle for democracy, of course, is one vote, one value, and the counting principle for the market is $1, one value. There is an eternal temptation for those who have accumulated dollars in the market to use those dollars to influence those decisions that are supposed to be governed by democratic principles, from funding political campaigns to outright bribery. There is a reverse concern, is that those who have accumulated votes and the power that comes with it may seek to convert those votes into dollars either themselves as a matter of their parties, as a matter of corruption, or for their constituents, which was a traditional but not recent concern that the wealthy against government welfare provisions. But the fact that most will accept a role for the market and a role for democracy means that there's a perennial problem, of course, of setting the boundaries, what is covered by the $1, one value, one vote, one value, setting those boundaries, which are always going to be controversial, and defining those boundaries and policing those boundaries between market and democracy. And in fact, if people believe in markets and democracy, then there'll always be that dividing line, and they're actually some of the most difficult issues that we have in governance do emerge. Campaign funding, as we're talking about tonight, and more generally donations to political parties, which we're talking about tonight. Question of government advertising, of media ownership, control and legislation, of lobbying, subsequent employment of MPs, the privatisation and the PPPs, zoning decisions, pork barrelling and other forms of corruption. As I say, many of the most significant governance problems we have is because we want a bit of both, and how do we actually define those? And at the point of intersection, many of the most serious problems arise. This doesn't mean that all the problems we have in society are caused by this this split between the market and democracy, but it's a very significant source of those problems. And sometimes our difficulty with dealing with other non-governance problems like climate change is because of that interaction between those who get dollars from the market and trying to convert those dollars into votes in one way or another. Media institutions face particular dilemmas because they are simultaneously key elements in an effective democracy and, for the most part, commercial entities seeking success in the market. They are worthy of a wide discussion for another time, or if you like, Q&A, and I've written on it a good deal in the past. But here we focus on they play two roles: as major sellers of political advertising space and as donors of in-kind space for their pet causes, which we'll talk about more later. First, for some reason, my screen has gone much more fuzzy, but I hope that the words are not any more fuzzy than they otherwise would be. I want to deal with a couple of issues. First, there's in talking about campaign donations and money and politics, there are some who say and see political donations as an exercise of free speech, whether by individuals or corporations. And they see such speech as protected by a fundamental human right. As a lawyer and a philosopher, I know that some issues are complex. I also know that some things are not. And I'll argue very much that this is not complex or difficult. There's just a lot of rubbish to be pulled aside in the way that Peter Winch describes. First, human rights are the rights of human beings. Corporations are not human beings, therefore corporations do not have human rights. It's a syllogism, and rarely should a major public policy issue be solved by a syllogism, but this is one of the cases when you can. Obviously, individual shareholders may have rights, but not as shareholders, as human beings who have a wide range of rights that we've recognised. That's the first thing about who is the benefit of rights of free speech. Secondly, again, simple set of propositions. Money is not speech. Money enhances speech, makes it louder. Enhanced speech for some will drown out the speech of others with less money to amplify their speech. And so it's very important to recognise that rather than saying that somebody's got a right to speak as loudly as they can, when it comes to buying media space, that certainly there's no human right to be able to yell louder than anybody else can afford to. The third issue is a little bit more complex. Political speech has a vital role in democracy. Voters need to know how the alternative candidates see the country, the world, the challenges and the opportunities this provides, and how they propose to deal with the challenges and grasp those opportunities. The key right, though, is not that of the politician or their supporters to say what they want in as loud and expensive a voice as they can. The key right here is the right of citizens to receive relevant and accurate information. The point is that democracy is about the rights of citizens, not the rights of the wealthy to influence them. If the core rights of our polity were those of the wealthy, then we would not be a democracy. We would be a plutocracy. If, in fact, the core rights is to yell as loud as you can and to influence political debate with money.
Excuse me, Professor.
Hello?
A little more enthusiasm, please. Thank you.
Sorry. I'll do my best. Sometimes I get too enthusiastic, I speak too quickly, and so I'm always told to actually try to curb it a little bit. So, as I say, democracy is about the rights of citizens, not the rights of wealthy to influence them. And some may see that the US is on the road to plutocracy or may have even reached there. But either way, the thing is it's important that we look at the journey and ensure that we do not follow it. Voters, of course, if the core issue is voters' rights, voters have a right not to be lied to or misled in the most important decisions they make as part of democracy. Surely they should have as much protection in the market of ideas in democracy as they do when they buy a toaster or visit a bank. Misleading and deceptive conduct by the sellers of goods has long been punishable. And obtaining a financial benefit by deception has also long been punishable in economic transactions. But what about misleading and deceptive conducts by politicians? Under our Westminster system, lying to or misleading the Parliament has long been a hanging offence, for which I must say far too few have swung. But of course, the Ministerial Code of Conduct in Australia goes further than that. Not only is it a breach of the code to mislead Parliament, it's also a breach of the code to mislead the public. Really important development, and I think what the Westminster Principle was all about. However, of course, there's a problem. Who is it who determines if there's a breach of the if there's a breach of the code, and what if any consequences are followed? Of course, it's the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister has a fundamental and irredeemable conflict of interest in determining whether those he appoints have lied or misled, or sometimes if the Prime Minister has himself or herself lied or misled the public. It's quite bizarre if we compare the market of ideas and the market for goods. Would we let Allen Bond or Storm Financial determine whether they had misled their customers and whether or not they should pay any money back? Buyers of goods and services in normal markets have duties to be truthful. Why should that not apply to political parties and their backers? There's a further argument concerning donations by corporations. Corporations and the directors who run them are generally held to have one duty to their shareholders. I actually think this goes too far, but the thing is, the people who argue that are the principal subjects of this comment. Basically, as I say, directors have one responsibility to their shareholders. Anything else is a frolic of their own. This creates a catch-22, or for those students of English history, a Morton's fork. Basically, if corporations donate money to a political party, then either they are doing it to advance the interests of their, if they donate money for a political party, they are either doing it to advance the interests of their shareholders, in which case they are by definition acting corruptly. If they don't donate money because of their values and political preferences, then they're in breach of their directors' duties, which logically comes to one conclusion. In that case, corporations should not actually donate money. When I was first put this view as part of Anna Bligh's review of Queensland Accountability and Integrity System, this was seized on by one of the ministers of the Crown and say, aha, but the Labor Party, with the Labor Party, unions had the support of the Labor Party as part of their history, their DNA, and more importantly, their constitutions. To which I said, I fully understand that. However, the thing is that you need to have a level playing field. Whereas it's very wrong for one side of politics to have much more money for advertising than the other. I'm not in favour of switching it the other way around. And in any case, this is about voters' rights, as I say, not about the rights of those political parties and the advertisers. And the voters deserve a level playing field. And of course, I must say, if neither corporations or unions donated, the latter could spend more time and effort on their members, and the cost would need to come from either small individual contributions or public funding. Now, the thing is that I'm almost finished my time. I've tried to set out these principles without going through the egregious problems and the sensible solutions that Ken will raise. I thought I might deal with some of the principled arguments. Firstly, I want to point out that political donations do not merely take the form of cash. There are some of the traditionals, volunteers who hand out how to vote cards and so forth. That's always been part of in-kind contributions. And sometimes legal or other experts will advise a particular a party in forming its policies. That's sort of like small beer, but very useful and important in-kind contributions. Hospitality can go a bit far, and of course, politicians who are members of Parliament must declare that. One form of in-kind contribution we need to be particularly careful of is that into the drafting of legislation by interested parties in the United States. Going further, some will offer some technological support, but most important of all, and I'd emphasise this, is that probably the most valuable donations that are given by any donors in the Australian political system is not mining companies, who tend to give cash, of course, but the invaluable acres of column inches devoted in some newspapers to attacking one party and defending the other. This is a form of in-kind donation which is very, very hard to measure. If you just sort of ask papers how much it would cost to have an advertisement on your front.
No, Mom, I'm in a meeting right now. I'll do the fucking dishes later. Fuck up. No, I don't care. Professor Charles Sampford is speaking right now. Go away.
What was that all about?
Oh,
God.
Yeah, so someone just broke in. I've just tried to mute them now. But
yeah,
people...
He is muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry you've had to put up with a couple of...
No, that's I'll put up with much worse. Sorry. So, oh yes, the thing is that if you were going to sort of say, I want 20 front pages of the Daily Telegraph over the next 3 months, bagging my opponents and supporting me, how much would it cost as pure advertising? I'm sure they wouldn't give it to you, but even if they did, editorial is much more valuable than advertising copy. And so the thing is, I think quite seriously, the thing is the biggest donations by any corporation to any party is by News Corp. And this is not the time to talk about what you do about this, but I just pointed out that in fact, if you get rid of all the cash donations by the corporations, you are missing a very big part, a very valuable part of donations in this country. Other thing, of course, you need to...
Oh my God, I think I have fucking COVID.
Okay.
We can try to deal with this.
Also, look, there are bans on foreign corporations, I think can be defended in principle, especially there are plenty of examples where, in fact, I could give an example where Alistair Campbell said that Murdoch had been talking to Blair and said that if he was having difficulty, he understood he was having difficulty getting a positive vote for the war in Iraq through his parliament, and he said he would devote the full resources of his media companies to supporting Blair if he did that. If that's not a massive bribe, I don't know what is. And of course, the thing is, this is somebody who's a citizen of another country who is very close to the rulers of that country. And again, that's a very important reason to ban foreign companies and foreign individuals. And the last thing I want to say is a small matter, is that ministerial time is one of the scarcest commodities in a democracy. I won't say it's the most valuable, but it's extremely scarce. And if ministers have to spend time, I think this reflects something that Julia was saying, if ministers have to spend their time seeking donations or speaking to those who donated, then that is a squandering of a really important resource. Ministers obviously should speak to a wide range of interests and constituents and so forth, but they and their civil servants should choose who they speak to. Those with money should not. Basically, as I say, because those who have achieved significant dollars through the market should not be allowed to convert that into political power.